Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
Alyeska Pipeline Service Company, fueling philanthropic programs and dedicated to creating educational and professional opportunities for Alaska Native people.
The National Weather Service.
Good Wednesday, everyone. I'm meteorologist Dave Snider with you on this 21st of December. And as Alaskans, we all know that the 21st, and sometimes the 22nd, is a magical day at the beginning of climatological winter. But of course, as you know from watching the Alaska Weather Show for years and years and years and years, that the 1st of December is the beginning of meteorological winter. So some of us have already started winter, but many of us kind of start winter today, and even more of us are looking forward to tomorrow when the days around Alaska start getting just a little bit longer. Even if it's just a few seconds, you know it's going to feel so good. Give us a call at 1-800-472-0391. That is your Alaska Weather Information line. It has your forecast for any part of Alaska, and if you haven't used that before, get a piece of paper, pen, pencil, and write down the numbers you use to get to your forecast. And then the next time you can just punch those in a little bit faster there. It works pretty well. Weather.gov/Alaska is your website for the entire statewide view. You can also go to weather.gov/Anchorage, weather.gov/Juneau, or weather.gov/Fairbanks and get all of your weather forecast information in a more localized format there. You can get to any one of those other sites from any of the other sites. Pretty easy to use that as well. But if you can't find what you need, please let us know at nws.ar.tvweather@noaa.gov or simply give us a call, and we'd be happy to guide you through and to find the information that you're looking for, and we're happy to do it. It really does kind of make our day to help you find the information that you're looking for. So, onward into the satellite picture, and you'll notice a spin in the atmosphere right about here. That is low pressure working off of Kodiak Island, and each one of these little bursts that we're seeing across the central and western Gulf is the new beginnings of something that could develop into a few showers and thunderstorms again. As we head into tonight, this same pattern is capable of producing some isolated thunderstorms across the outer coast or just offshore of southeastern Alaska. And so we're seeing that next wave kind of develop and move across the Gulf tonight and into tomorrow once again. Out across the west, you can see a very broad scale, kind of a plume of cloud cover there. Low pressure across the far western reaches of the Bering Sea, even north and west of Shemya, is drawing in that warmer weather here. But a lot of this, I mean, it's not that warm, but it's very unsettled, and it's not very organized like it once was when we had those very potent and tightly wrapped weather systems moving in from the North Pacific. But just as soon as we start talking about this, we know that there's something else coming, and you can barely see that in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. Most of you probably can't, but it's just the beginnings of the next weather system feeding into the North Pacific waters there, very close to the Aleutians. Up north, we have several waves of low pressure as well. You can see one of those kind of working its way right about in here. That has been bringing snow to the Chukchi Coast today. Frontal boundary, a new leading edge of colder air trying to work its way in. It is going to get all mixed up and not really be much of a leading edge of colder air anymore. It'll just be another kind of broad area of cooler winds working its way toward the coast slowly and surely. And if you look carefully up across the Beaufort Seacoast, you can see another wave of low pressure. Just a lot of these little tiny circulations without any big emphasis by one major system whatsoever, except for maybe what we've got here around Kodiak Island this afternoon. Here's a look at the weather map. There's one low, there's another low, there's another wave up here that's, well, not quite a low, I guess. There's some pockets of snow around that. And here's the cold front way up north that's trying to drop southward. Our diffuse area of low pressure across the western Bering, high pressure trying to dig in across south and western sections of Alaska and the Bristol Bay region, as well as the eastern Aleutians and the Alaska Peninsula. All in all, the weather's trying to stabilize really across the interior here, but we'll see if this high pressure ridge will be strong enough to do that. Underneath tonight, don't be surprised to run into some pockets of fog or freezing fog or even ice fog there across some of our interior valleys. Southwest, we've got a little bit more of a kind of a well, this would be more of a west and northwesterly flow coming across Shelikof Strait and the Cook Inlet region. We were talking about some stronger winds setting up across Cook Inlet for today, and we never really saw that huge big push of wind develop there. Low pressure didn't quite do the trick here at 992 millibars tonight. It may be a little blustery across the northern and eastern Gulf, but not too terrible. Periods of rain and snow will be possible for some areas in southeastern Alaska. By and large, what you'll see out over the water will be rainfall. And again, an isolated thunderclap or two, certainly possible, as it has been across the eastern Gulf in the last couple of days. Rain and snow showers are possible for the Pribilofs. You'll have a better chance for seeing some light snow showers across the northern part of the YK Delta from Amonik all the way up to Unalakleet, Shaktoolik, and Nome, and then into Kotzebue Sound. And there's that front there. The blue lines with the triangles indicate the direction of travel, and it is moving this way. And as we get into tomorrow, you'll see I've kind of broken it into pieces there. That means it's falling apart. And as that air gets a little more mixed up, that new line or that changeover from warmer to colder won't be as evident anymore, whether on the weather map or actually in person there if you're standing out at Point Hope or Point Lay out toward Wainwright. High pressure is going to sit fairly close to Fairbanks on Thursday at 1,018 millibars. It's certainly not the most stable air mass that we've seen all season long. In fact, it's a little bit on the weaker side, and because of that, many of these weather systems out west won't have a huge problem invading that space and taking over with clouds and eventually some more unsettled weather. Low pressure across the northern Gulf at 998 millibars is a little bit more something to write home about, and as this is getting closer to the southeastern and northern coastline, the winds will pick up a little bit more, and once again there's that opportunity for a few showers or thunderstorms in the region. Convective weather is certainly possible with this system, and rainfall will gradually mix in with some snowflakes in more northern places like Gustavus and Juneau, and perhaps even further southward toward Petersburg and Wrangell. But around Sitka and Port Alexander, you're more likely to see rainfall there, at least showers on and off throughout your Thursday. High pressure giving way across British Columbia will allow more of that to move inland as we get into Friday. As I said, there was another system trying to kind of poke its way into the Aleutians, and it may do that as we get into Thursday night and Friday. Because of that, there might be some high-end gales working its way into the central and western chain. There's also an opportunity for snowfall there. Notice too, though, that high pressure is sitting right across the western Gulf, and if this is strong enough, chances are this system will kind of drop southward or weaken as it tries to move eastward if high pressure wants to give up a little bit of real estate out over the ocean. As we get into Friday, the system is creeping eastward here. You'll notice the ridge does in fact move east, but now we're down to 972 millibars, so something's got to give. Either that weather system has to get stronger or move south or move north, or high pressure has to get weaker and get out of the way. And it looks like by Friday, Mini and South Central will get at least a taste of that clearer sky. It might be a little colder in some cases, but it does look like the clouds might break up a little bit. Rainfall moves into the central and eastern Aleutians. Some pockets of mixed precipitation around Cold Bay and Falls Pass up toward the Pribilofs. You might even see a little bit of rainfall there over snow. The Seward Peninsula, Norton Sound, and as well as many in the Koyukuk Valley into the middle Yukon Valley, we'll be looking at a chance for some light snow, and fog and snow possible across the North Slope, even as weather disturbances are moving from west to east across most of the coastal communities there. Low pressure is finally moving on its way across southeast. You'll have a trough, an area of unsettled weather, maybe across the north and eastern Gulf, and some pockets of leftover rain and snow, but it looks like things will be starting to clear up for many in southeast. And for the west, yet another storm is making its way into the western Aleutians at 967 millibars. That'll be the stronger of the two weather systems there across the central and western part of our state. Here's a look at current temperatures that we saw. I guess these are 2 o'clock temperatures, so maybe not so current where you are now. 30s across most of southeast, 41 around Haines today, 37 for the capital city, just shy of 40 around Sitka, and upper 30s for Ketchikan and Annette. Hyder was 36. Yakutat had 35. It was 29 in Kodiak, 20s and 30s for the Kenai Peninsula, with Homer seeing snow today. 34 in Valdez and snowing in the region there as well. 19 for Anchorage, 21 in Talkeetna. Once you got across the mountains, it was single-digit territory for the Tanana Valley, around 1 in Fairbanks, 7 in Healy, 7 for Fort Greely, 13 around Golcana, and it was 11 below around, it was 17 below around Northway, and 11 below for Tok, 1 below for Eagle. So temperatures a little bit colder down across some of the southern valleys earlier today. 0 around Fort Yukon. It was 8 below for Anaktuvuk Pass, anywhere from 5 to 10 below for the Beaufort Seacoast. Prudhoe Bay had -8, 5 above for Barrow. Around Kotzebue Sound, temps were back in the teens there. Kotzebue was 17, 9 though in Shishmaref with 12 in Nome. And temps around Savunga down to 23 today. 3 around Grayling and Russian Mission. It was 9 above in McGrath, 10 above for Bethel, 19 for Nunivak Island. As you get out into Bristol Bay, we saw low teens for most areas. The Lake Iliamna was 18 degrees. 20s and 30s for the Pribilofs today. The Alaska Peninsula also looking at temps in the 20s and 30s. 30 for Sandpoint, 34 for Atka, about the same there in Adak, and 32 in Shemya. Overnight low temperatures will dip back into the 15 to 25 below range for most of the central, even western interior. Look at Tanana. Bettles at 27 below, 21 below for Arctic Village, 0 in Barrow. Still warmer around Kotzebue Sound, 5 to 10 there. 11 above in Nome, 20 for Nunivak Island. 20s and 30s for the Alaska Peninsula. Kodiak Island, 24. South Central, teens, maybe even single digits as you get up into the Parks Highway in Talkeetna, Wasilla, and Palmer. 30s for most of Southeast. Gulf Canna, Glen Allen, you're about 10 to maybe even 15 below. Fairbanks after 14 below in the morning, 10 below for a daytime high temperature tomorrow. That's what high pressure will do for you. 15 to 20 below across the more northern interior there. 5 to 10 below for the Beaufort Seacoast, 5 to 10 above for the Chukchi Coast. About the same there for Kotzebue Sound, 15 in Nome. Bethel, 18. Bristol Bay temps back in the lower teens, and 30 for Kodiak with temps in the mid to upper 30s for the Alaska Peninsula. Dutch Harbor and Unalaska close to 40. And southeast, you're back in the mid to upper 30s. St. Paul, St. George, you and Dutch Harbor and Unalaska probably talking about some of the warmer spots in the entire state for your Thursday. IFR conditions will be back in the Chukchi Coast as well as Kotzebue Sound and the higher terrain, maybe even Juneau as we get into the morning. Remember, a few thunderstorms are possible offshore. You'll see that potential continue, but look for more of an MVFR setup for most of the afternoon there in southeast. IFR out west in the chain, as well as parts of the northern and western interior in the northwest coast, and Nunivak Island in between St. Lawrence and St. Matthew Islands for tomorrow afternoon. Your pass conditions show some gradual lowering of ceiling and visibility around Anaktuvik and Adigan Pass for the afternoon, but a start at VFR is expected. Looks pretty clear for Lake Clark and Merrill Pass tomorrow, and Rainy Pass looks to be VFR for most of the day. Windy Pass, we expect to see VFR conditions there, but a turn to MVFR after starting at IFR in Isabel Pass. And IFR to start for Mentasta Pass, some improvements noted by the afternoon, and will continue to improve in Tanita Pass after a start at MVFR for the afternoon. Portage Pass, MVFR conditions in the morning, but improving conditions throughout the day. VFR expected by the afternoon, and some improvement for Chilkoot and White Pass, but again, a start at IFR is expected for your Thursday. Freezing levels continue the surface freezing line right over southeast. The Kenai Peninsula is south of Kodiak Island and all the way down to about Cold Bay and False Pass there. You can see some of the warmer weather trying to lift northward, but that is only at the surface. The elevated warming is pretty much retreated to the south and east across the Pacific Northwest. Icing potential, there's plenty of that. There is a lot of moisture around all of these tiny little weather systems, and while they're not very potent, there is a lot of moisture just kind of hanging around there, and a lot of that anywhere from light to isolated moderate, and above about 1,000 to 2,000 feet in the eastern third of Alaska, and the northwestern regions about 2,000 feet and above across the northwest. Above 5,000 feet around some of the southwestern capes in Nunivak Island, and above 2,000 feet for the central and western Aleutians out toward Kiska and just east of Shemya. So again, pay attention to the weather, and a lot of this is on the move, very slowly, but certainly moving. Low pressure in the jet stream shows a pretty pronounced trough across the Gulf of Alaska. We have a much sharper wave developing out to the west, and that's what's powering those two systems that we were kind of spying off in the distance on the surface weather charts. The sharper this gets, the more powerful those storms can be. And you see that slowly working its way eastward. So we're still in a pretty unstable pattern here. At 9,000 feet, one wave across the eastern Gulf has winds coming in from the south and west to the Panhandle at 20 to 25. The ridge of high pressure is channeling northwesterlies across the Alaska Peninsula at 30 to 40 knots. And westerlies now working across the interior from 20 to 30 knots with southwesterlies across the northwest slope, 30 to 40 knots there for the Chukchi Coast. 3,000 feet, you can see those westerlies really slowing down across the interior at 5 to 15. Notice over the western Brooks Range, though, 25 to 40 knots from the west and southwest. Our high pressure ridge is slowing down both of the systems out west, but it does have some stronger winds again across the Alaska Peninsula and Kodiak Island from the north and west, 30 to 35. And low pressure clearly here in the Gulf of Alaska with winds around the northern Gulf at around 20 to 25. Turbulence then will focus across mainly the outer coast, some of the inner channels for southeast below 4,000 feet, some occasional turbulence around Shelikof Strait and the Aleutian Range down toward False Pass and just north and east there from Port Heiden. And across the northwest coast, below 4,000 feet, watch for at least a little bit of chop and maybe occasional moderate there with that next weather system moving in. That's a look at your aviation forecast. I'll be back with your marine weather here in just a few minutes.
Next, you will approach Berners Bay, Bridget Point, and Echo Cove, which will be to the right. After passing Berners Bay, Point St. Mary's is the next reporting point. Keep in mind, Berners Bay is important as a reporting point. Most poor weather conditions for the Lynn Canal are generated in this area. Adiabatic winds descending from the ice fields to the north of Berners Bay can create fog or turbulence depending on the temperature dew point spread. Tour operators will normally report Sherman Point on the other side of Berners Bay and Eldred Rock Lighthouse. Sullivan Island is to the left. In the vicinity of Eldred Rock, pilots frequently cross the Lynn Canal towards Sullivan Island to fly up the Chilkat Inlet to Haines. When crossing the canal, remain within gliding distance of shore. Haines Peninsula separates Chilkat Inlet to the left from Chilkoot Inlet to the right. There is a landing strip at Glacier Point at the foot of Davidson Glacier that can be used in an emergency. Davidson Glacier, which will be off to the left, is a route used by the tour operators into Glacier Bay. It is also a reporting point that has a lot of traffic during the summer months. Continuing towards Haines, Rainbow Glacier, which is a hanging glacier to the left of your flight path, is also used as a reporting point. Alexander Island is just abeam Davidson Glacier and Pyramid Rock, just before reaching the city of Haines. Both are reporting points for entering the traffic pattern at Haines. Haines has quite a bit of traffic in the summer months. Tour operators pick up tourists for glacier tours. Haines has one of the few roads in southeast Alaska that connects to the Alcan Highway. The Alaska Marine Highway, or ferry, stops in Haines with potential passengers from outlying areas. Operators based in Haines serve the local population and ferry passengers with transportation in southeast Alaska to areas where there are no roads or ferry service. Weather can change rapidly, and high winds blowing across the runway are common. There is a bluff to the northwest of runway 826. There are strong crosswinds due to wind descending over the bluff. Moose and bear are known to be in the vicinity of the runway, so be cautious on the approach. There is transient parking available, but services are limited. Fuel can be obtained by calling the phone number listed at the pumps. When departing Haines, avoid flying over the town at low altitudes. The people of Haines are very noise sensitive. 135 operators will be reporting the Davidson Glacier descending inbound to Haines. Be especially aware of traffic around you as you climb out. Returning to the Lynn Canal, you will again pass Pyramid Rock, Alexander Island, Davidson Glacier, and Rainbow Glacier. As you move out of Chilkat Inlet into the Lynn Canal, your next set of checkpoints will be Sullivan Island and Eldred Rock Lighthouse. As you continue toward Juneau, you will see Berners Bay, Benjamin Island, Eagle Beach, Tea Harbor, and finally, Lena Point. It is important that you know where the reporting points are located in order to spot reporting traffic in the Lynn Canal. Alaska Airlines VFR descent is across Barlow Cove to the Cut or Funter Bay to South Tip. Be alert to traffic arriving from the southwest. Lena Point is the first reporting point into the Juneau Airport. The approach into Juneau requires vigilance because many aircraft will be approaching and departing the Juneau Airport and Float Pond area. Subsequent reporting points when approaching for runway 08 are Coghlan Island, then Battleship Island, if requested, the Cut, South Tip, and final approach. If you are interested in traveling to other locations in Alaska, please view the appropriate videotape.
Time for a quick check of the sea ice, and once again, the slow expansion of ice from east to west is continuing there. We expect that to remain the case for the next several days. Low pressure has kind of chewed up some of the ice here across southwestern Alaska, and that may also continue to be the case as there are several waves across the North Pacific and southern Bering. And notice that we still have a large area in the Chukchi Sea that is less than 80% concentration there. For the very latest information, as well as thickness information and forecasts and outlooks, you can head to weather.gov/Anchorage/ice. We got some information about a volcano that is erupting right now across the eastern Aleutians. We'll talk about that here in just a minute, but you want to stay tuned for that. For southeasterlies coming across the central and southern parts of the Panhandle, look for winds from about 20 to 25 knots, higher gusts along the outer coast, and remember there is a threat for at least a few isolated thunderstorms across the region. Northerlies in the Lynn Canal at 25 knots with a 3-foot sea. For Wednesday, winds diminish in most areas, 15 to 25 knots across the outer coast, significantly higher winds though once you get south of Sitka, so watch for that coming offshore there, 25 knots with an 11-foot sea. Northerlies in the Lynn Canal, southeasterlies in the Clarence Strait, and about 4 to 5-foot seas on the inside for your Friday. For south central, northerlies out of Prince William Sound, northwesterlies over the Barren Islands and slowing down as they go, but slightly stronger winds there west of the Barrens and into Shelikof Strait at 35 to 40 knots. So gales will be possible in some areas there, but lighter winds as you head out into the northern Gulf with 8 to as high as 12-foot seas there. In the northern part of Cook Inlet, northerlies, they're 10 knots or so, 3-foot seas. Northwesterlies crossing the Barrens at about 20 to 25. And westerlies kick in for Kodiak Island, 15 to 20 there, 4-foot seas on the inside of Shelikof Strait and 2-foot seas on the inside of Prince William Sound. For the Alaska Peninsula and Bristol Bay, southerlies inside the bay at 10 knots with a 3-foot sea, southwesterlies down the Bering Sea coast with a 7-foot sea, and west and northwesterly winds across the Alaska Peninsula's Pacific coastline with 11-foot seas between Castle Cape and Chignik. For Friday, those winds reverse course and become south and southeasterly. In Bristol Bay, 20 knots with a 6-foot sea. Southerlies come up even more across the Bering Sea coast and the Pacific coast from Sand Point down to False Pass. 14-foot seas expected there with 45-knot winds, so high-end gales expected by Friday. Now, for that volcano, we have Bogoslav, if you've heard of that, and we just kind of got a refresher course yesterday there. That is just to the north and west of Unalaska and north of Akmak. This is an explosive eruption starting at about 10 minutes after 4 o'clock this afternoon Alaska time. The ash cloud is going to about 35,000 feet, so I have no idea if you can see that from Unalaska and Dutch Harbor. It's not a monitored volcano from the Alaska Volcano Observatory, but you can monitor that. All you have to do is go to Twitter and look for the address Alaska_AVO. That's Alaska_AVO. And if you need alerts, and you can get that set up there if you're watching from Unalaska or anywhere on the Alaska Peninsula. Last I understood, a lot of these winds are going to take the high-level ash generally to the south and kind of away from the island. So good news there is that we'll just kind of pass over probably in this area. But continue to monitor that. Apparently, explosive eruptions starting at about 4:10 this afternoon, an ash cloud at 35,000 feet. So the Earth is most definitely alive right now. Here's the west and southwesterlies across the central and eastern chain. Light winds out across the west at 20 to 25. For Friday, north and easterly winds. For the western part of the chain, 14 to 17 foot seas, and stronger winds across the Pacific coast, 25 knots there. And again, we'll be monitoring that as well as the volcanic eruption with the Alaska Volcano Observatory. Southerlies continue north of Nunivak Island and St. Matthew Island, south and southwesterlies there, 15 to 25, 9 foot seas for the Pribilofs on a 25 knot wind. As we get into Friday, those south and easterly winds continue up the western coast, 25 knots in the Kuskokwim Delta with a 6 foot sea. Easterlies expected across St. Lawrence Island at 20 knots. Southerlies for the Beaufort Seacoast, 15 to 20. More of a southwesterly component there for the Chukchi Seacoast, up to 20 to 25 knots there for Thursday. Becoming more westerly as we go on Friday for the western coast, and southwesterlies for the Beaufort Seacoast pick up to 15 to 20 knots. Recapping tonight's weather, there are no watches, warnings, or advisories. We are monitoring the volcano there, Bogoslav, there just north and west of Unalaska. That is erupting right now. Low pressure across the northern Gulf at 992 millibars may be capable of producing some thunderstorm activity just offshore of southeast, with a period of rain and snow on the southeastern coastline and snow for the western coast. Thanks for watching Alaska Weather. See you next year.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Support comes from the University of Alaska College Savings Plan, helping you and your child save for college every step of the way, from diapers to diploma. More information at uacollegesavings.com.